To thinking is contagious. See, analyzing and looking at what's going on. You happy with what you're paying for gas? It's going up. You happy what's happening with the debt? It's going up. Are you happy what's going on in the border? 1,000 people a day crossing illegally, bringing disease, bringing crime, bringing danger to the border agents. Are you happy with what's happening with our legislature as far as the laws and the uh, mandates that they're trying to pass, H.R. 1? You happy that if it passes, that for every dollar that a politician raises for their campaign, Democrat or Republican, you, the taxpayer, will donate $6? You happy with that? I don't know if you're happy with it. I know that I'm not happy with it. And I know that what is happening at this point is a hell bent lean to the left, and socialism is what's being pursued. And I had a couple of interesting conversations this weekend, and they sort of like tied together, and I wanted to really bring the analogy together. But I have a friend of mine. I'm a big baseball fan. Been in fantasy baseball leagues for 35 years now, 32, 33 years, something like that. And I have a good friend of mine that is he's like a family. He's like a brother. He um, he is very liberal, and he and I have a lot of conversations about baseball and records, and because baseball is a lot of that, records. And we always discuss, and I agree with this 100%. He always brings up the topic that Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Ty Cobb, Christy Mathewson, Cy Young, that, yeah, they have all these tremendous records, but they really weren't competing against the best players in the world because it was a segregated league. And I agree. I agree 100% with him. Um, there were a lot of Negro League players, and there was a lot of players from Cuba, Latin America, uh, a lot of players of color that weren't allowed to play in the major leagues. So I agree 100%. Those records that the greats, the baseball greats, have prior to the era of segregation in baseball, they probably should carry a little asterisk in the sense that the playing field was not open to everyone. Therefore, you could argue that the results were not indicative of competing against the best day in and day out, always. I mean, a lot of great players in the major leagues back then, and they were the best in the world, among the best in the world, but a portion of that best in the world, the best in class, a portion of that was left out with the segregation. And then it gets me to thinking about the world today and all these caveats and qualifiers. We're going to choose a vice president that's a woman. We're going to choose a vice president of color. We want our board to have people of color. We want our boards to have minorities. We want our boards to have people of particular gender. Um, we want our board to have a mindset of or a participation of people with certain sexual orientations. When those start to become the criteria, we've had this conversation before. Isn't it not the same thing that my friend and I discuss about baseball records and about how the whole audience is not available, the whole demographic is not available to compete, or in this case, to choose from? So that weakens the choice. That's why I've always said the day that Joe Biden said, my vice president is going to be a woman, and then they morphed into a woman of color next, automatically that degraded the selection of Kamala Harris. She's not, you can argue that she was not chosen among the entire demographic of the best in class. She was she was chosen among a very limited demographic, a woman 50% of the population, women of color. What is that? 12, 15, 20% of the population? Pretty, pretty significant reduction of the base of the field from which to choose. And obviously, this is the result you get. You get an inferior candidate at this point. And an inferior candidate that is being teed up to become the president of this country very soon. When you see the mainstream media allow the video, cover it and put it on all the major networks of Joe Biden tripping as he goes up the stairs to the airplane, when the mainstream media allows that to happen, that should tell you what the mandate is. Because if that would have happened while the campaign was going on, while the election was up, it was Biden against Trump for the election results, you wouldn't have seen the mainstream media show that video. I don't think. Do you? No. But they're showing it now. Why? Because they're getting it ready to say, hey, Joe, he can't continue, so we're going to put Kamala in. They're letting him do the dirty work, do the heavy lifting right now, get all the mud thrown at him for the executive orders. That's why he's rushing through 100 executive orders. That's why they're talking about eliminating the filibuster. All the mud is falling on him. And we've already discussed why that is happening, because he was given the mandate, said, Joe, the only shot you have of significance, but more importantly, the only shot you have of keeping your family name clean, we'll make sure that these investigations go nowhere. The only shot you have is you do our bidding. You do the bidding of the left, of the socialists. We need the Trojan horse. We need someone that will be palatable to 60% of the population. And we need you to do exactly as we tell you. And Joe, if you don't, you will pay the consequences. You and your family will pay the consequences. And that's what's happening. Barack Obama even told him a couple of years back when Biden was thinking about running. Well, Barack Obama told him don't run. He didn't think that Joe Biden had any shot. And of course he had no shot. Of course he had no shot. Of course 81 million people didn't vote for Joe Biden. Because we knew. And even Barack Obama told him to stay out because he was going to be embarrassed. But we know what happened. We know how this was cooked, and we know where this ended up. So we are now at this point, and the plan is in place. It's being implemented. They're broadcasting Joe's problems, his issues, physical, mental. And if not, you wouldn't be seeing them. And that is exactly precisely the plan as they prepare to bring in that left agenda, that socialist agenda. They keep printing money. They keep getting us in debt. And we discussed this in the last program, but it's funny how we have Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and the politicians of Washington, D.C. dictating and giving their opinion and being very forceful at it about economic policy and attacking leaders of billion-dollar corporations, self-made men and women, self-made billionaires, attacking those billionaires as evil and attacking those billionaires as having all these flaws and these unfairness and this inequality, and attacking them. And we're listening to people that at this point have us $28 trillion in debt versus self-made multi-billionaires. They were going after Bezos the other day. He's worth 150 or $120 billion because he gave half to his wife when he got divorced, by the way. It would be worth $250 billion. And they're attacking him and dictating and lecturing to him about economy and finance. He wasn't there, obviously, because he knows he's not going to waste his time with a bunch of senseless, inane drones like these people are. And they're telling him about giving opinions about how to properly use money, invest money. It's a joke. Bernie Sanders, joke. Elizabeth Warren, a joke. Kamala Harris, we know what she is. She's worse than a joke. Anyway, that's who we are. Then another conversation that I had this weekend, and it was again with some people who were liberal, very nice people, by the way. Um, and in this conversation, the topic comes up about, I brought up the topic because I watched the video. My son had shown me a video of Tiger Woods' dad on Oprah, and Oprah was goading him, trying to get him to play the race card, so to speak, asking him, what did you raise your son to identify with? What race? And Tiger's father was just phenomenal. He said the human race, which that's what I say all the time. My race is the human race, and it's Oprah was floored because she knew she couldn't keep grinding that point. And the guy was just brilliant. And, my topic in that conversation that I was telling you with these people was, when we stop dividing this country by gender and race and creed, religious beliefs, sexual orientation, when we stop dividing this country and just say we're Americans, well, this country will become much stronger and much better and much more united. And one of these individuals jumped down my throat. Oh, well, you can't judge because you're not black what black people have gone through. No, I can't. But black people can't judge what a white man has gone through. White people can't judge what other minorities have gone through. Just like you say, first-time grandfather, you can't judge other grandfather. It's an absurd argument, an absolutely absurd argument that because you shut people up using the race card constantly, you attempt to. Obviously, they didn't shut me up because it was such an inane, ridiculous argument. But and the argument was exactly what I said, and then the point that was being made was that this inequality that exists today needs to be identified and magnified and brought to the forefront. No, there is no inequality that exists today. And the argument that you're owed something, you're not owed anything. You're not owed anything. Part of what we were discussing was the forgiveness of financial aid, college debt. And, these people fail to understand that 60+% of the debt is owed by people with master's degree that make over $150,000 a year. They can well afford to pay back their debt. And the argument was made that the free market does not work in education because you can buy a car at 0% interest, but you can't finance your college education at 0% interest. Well, that's the market. That's what people have been duped into believing. When was the last time anybody negotiated their college tuition? When was the last time anybody negotiated the interest rates on their student loans? When was the last time anybody attempted to do that? You know why cars get sold for 5 years at 0% interest? Because the market dictates that it be that way. Otherwise, you're not going to sell cars because there's competition. But when you have a whole generation or 2 generations of people brainwashed to believe that without a college education they can't succeed, and believe that not even a bachelor's degree is sufficient, but they need a master's degree, and believe that they need to go to schools that cost $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year in order to be successful, in order to become a good teacher, to make $50,000 a year, there's a problem. There's a problem. That's not a free market. That's manipulated. That's brainwashing, and that is the sheep. The very same sheep that believe that story, that believe because they have a parchment from a school that they're going to be millionaires, it's the very same sheep that vote for the left, Joe Biden. It's the very same blind sheep that believe that they're owed something. It's the very same sheep that blame the successful for their unsuccess. And in this world, the only thing that you're guaranteed when you're born is that you're going to die. What happens in between is up to you. And until you take responsibility, until you accept that, and until you stop using the crutch that because you were born a certain color, you were born a certain religion, you were born a certain gender, until you stop using that excuse, the most successful people in the world are all genders, all colors, all religious beliefs. There's people everywhere of success that are successful. You know what they have in common? They don't have crutches. They don't believe in crutches. Now, the people who are complaining, bitching, and moaning, pointing the finger and saying that they're being abused and they're not getting opportunity, you know what they have in common? That they use a crutch. As soon as this stops, as soon as we realize what the whole world realizes, 1,000 people a day crossing the border down south, people coming from Cuba before, when it was wet foot, dry foot was in place, coming from Cuba risking life and limb crossing the ocean on inner tubes. When people come from Europe hiding the wheel wells of airplanes, from people come from the Middle East, from people come from everywhere to this country, it's not because they are coming and saying, hey, let's go to that country over there where there's no opportunity, where they're racist and they hate everybody. No, let's go over there because we can make money. We can be successful. We can improve our lives. We can improve our family. Guess who's the only people who don't believe that? The people who are sitting here in this country, born in this country. Okay, those are the only people that don't believe this. The people born in this country that have been brainwashed and believe that they're owed something and believe that they can't succeed because of their color, race, or religion. Those are the people that have the problem. And guess who gives them that problem? Their leaders that say, we're going to take care of you. Don't worry, leave it in our hands. Well, guess what? For 60, 70, 100 years, they've left it in their hands. And they're still complaining about that there's no progress. When is enough enough? Definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. I had to laugh with these conversations that I had this weekend of this, the absurdity of it. Somebody actually asked me when we were talking about, well, have you ever had anybody in your family be a slave? No, did you? Are you a slave? No. What does that have to do with anything? Have you ever had anyone in your family? I could ask the same thing. Have you ever had anyone in your family killed by a dictator? I see people walking around with Che Guevara shirts. I have blood relatives that were murdered in Cuba by the regime. I'm not owed reparations. I'm not owed restitution. I'm not owed anything. Neither are they. When you stop using the crutch, you will get somewhere. As long as you use the crutch, you'll limp. You will not get strong, and you will not rehabilitate the injury. As long as you believe that someone else is looking out for you more than you can look out for yourself, you will not succeed. You will not move forward. You will not progress. That will not happen until you realize that it is in your power. You have as much opportunity as anybody else. You have as much chance as anybody else. Quit making excuses for what you haven't achieved, because there's still time to achieve it. And that's where this is. And that's where this country is. And that's where we need to change the mindset at this point. Again, you're not owed a minimum wage of $15. The market will tell you what the minimum wage is. You're not owed free college education. You want to go to college? There's plenty of ways to go for free. There's plenty of ways to go at little cost. There's junior colleges. There's less expensive colleges. But no, you fell into the mindset and you believed the rumor that a degree from Harvard is going to get you somewhere that a degree from FIU is not. Well, guess what? Maybe if you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor or something, but if you're going to be a teacher, if you're going to be a historian, if you were going to be a psychologist, if you're going to be a political scientist, whatever you're going to be, your degrees are probably going to be the same. The earning level is going to be the same or very close to the same. But you believed that getting in debt was going to give you an advantage. What you criticize the wealthy for, having advantages. Weren't you seeking the advantage when you decided that you were going to go to this high-priced college? There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not criticizing it. I think everyone should try to do the best they can, get as far as they can, and take advantage legally, ethically, and morally of all their opportunities. But I don't owe you jack. People don't owe you anything. And your color has nothing to do with your success or failure. Your character has to do with your success or failure. Okay? Your culture has to do with your success and failure. Has nothing to do with color in this country because, like I said, they're lining up at the borders trying to get in. Color, of everyone of color, different religions, creed, sexual orientation, they're all trying to get in here. And there's a reason for that. And you're sitting in here already. You have the advantage of being here already. And what you're doing is crying, moaning, and bitching about the opportunity you don't have. Maybe you should devote a little bit more time to analyzing why you are where you are if you're not happy where you are. And I'm not saying money is what makes you happy. I'm just saying if you're so upset and you feel you're owed so much and you feel this country is so unfair, maybe you should analyze why you are exactly where you are right now. And you will see that the large majority of it, the 75% of it, is based on what you have done to get where you are. Think about that next time that you cry, bitch, and moan about the inequalities of a system that has worked for over 200 years and created the wealthiest nation in the world, the greatest economy in the world, the greatest technology, the greatest advancements in the world, like Operation Warp Speed. Thank you, Donald Trump, for saving millions of lives. Have a good day. And I hope that you understood this, and I hope that you pass this on, and I hope that you share this, because I can't be any more direct or plain about this. You are responsible for your life. Thank you.